What we have here is the 99-cent PC. I bought this back about a year and a half ago from Savers for about 99 cents. And since then, it's become the subject of a variety of videos. And I've used it for a lot of different tasks that required Windows 98. But it's going to be retired, and I'm going to try to sell it. I'm going to fix it up, get it running again, and try to make a few bucks off of it. I've replaced it with something a little bit better. Let's take a look at what I got. Yeah, look at that. I finally got my Gateway Pentium 3 tower. And Gateway was a very heavy hitter in the advertising department. Gateway had TV ads, print ads, radio ads. You know, they were all over. Gateway was like one of the biggest PC vendors, I believe, at the time, and throughout the 1990s. The company was founded in 1985, but it wasn't until the home computer boom of the mid-90s, the multimedia boom, I call it, that really got them the most market share. It got their market share to increase rapidly. And when I was growing up in a wealthy community, all the cool kids, all the wealthy kids, they had nice custom-built gateways at home, whereas I had trash-picked whatever I could find, and my other friends had the HPs and Compacts and Packard Bells, you know, to use it for 2 years and throw it away machines. But the cool kids had these Gateway towers and desktops. Now this one here started out life as a file server. Now, being a custom PC vendor, Gateway could build anything you really wanted. I mean, they would build, actually no, I think this wasn't a file server. This was I believe this was a test workstation. It was used to verify client software functionality, if I'm not mistaken. It was owned by a software company originally. But it was custom built for the application. It was a very bare bones system. Not bare bones in the sense that we know it today, but it had very, very, very low configuration. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, if you look on the back, this is when you wanted to build a custom PC in the 90s, late 90s, when ATX first came out, this is the kind of board you bought. It had minimal onboard components. You have your PS2, USB, serial parallel, that's it. This is a perfect board for building a custom PC off of, and that's what I believe Gateway used a lot of these boards in that time period. During the early stages of AGP, and you know, well into the Pentium 4 era. But they were buying a lot of these basic boards. There was no onboard audio, no onboard NIC, no onboard, of course, FireWire, no video, nothing. They were very, very bare bones boards. And those are the boards that you wanted, because you wouldn't have all that extra overhead that you're paying for, like an onboard graphics and audio board. So you just put what you want in them. So let's take a look. We're going to pop the cover off and see what we got inside. So I've already done my modifications. I've already customized it to what I want. And what I really wanted, though, I was actually kind of looking for one, but not actively. I wanted a slot 1 board because I just have a lot of nostalgia for the slot 1s, because they were, when I was in, you know, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, the slotted board, actually no, up until about 9th grade, the slot 1 boards, I just thought they were cool. Because you had that massive CPU with a giant heatsink attached to it. This is a Pentium 600. It's original. You know, being a Gateway, they did have their own custom cases built. These are not off-the-shelf cases. Gateway had specified their own. So you've got your 200-watt power supply, and it uses the power supply's cooling fan, and you've got this air deflector or hood, which directs the air which is coming through the case, through the top and out the back. It directs it through the CPU here. This is a very typical Pentium 3 slot 1 style Pentium 3 chip, and there is a way that you could actually add I believe it's called a flip chip adapter, but what it does is it allows you to put a faster chip than the slot 1 configuration would allow, because these slot 1 chips are only built up to a certain speed, and then they went back to a land grid format. So yeah, one of the reasons that the slotted chip configuration was abandoned was simply because of cooling challenges and packaging and space requirements. I mean, you see how much space this chip uses in comparison to a standard socket 370 chip. The socket 370 was used for the Celerons. I don't believe they ever made a slotted Celeron, so I believe the Celeron, the early Celeron boards, were a socket 370. And when Intel realized that this was not a good solution, they went with the socket 370 for the later half of the Pentium 3s and Pentium 4s, I believe. Not the socket 370, but whatever the hell the Pentium 4 used. I don't remember. Anyway, so what we have here is a slot 1 Pentium 3. Now, of course, AMD had their slot A's, so, AMD did follow Intel's footsteps, and when I believe it was their early Athlon chips, they were slot A's, and I owned one at one point. They were not intercompatible. But yeah, I mean, again, look at, you got your memory slots over here. There's 3 of them, and these are, I believe these are PC 100 or 133s. I think they're 100s. And I know that the actual memory cards themselves are Pentium, they are PC 133s, but the board may clock them down to 100. Anyway, there's not a lot of room here for a cooling fan, so, if you wanted an active cooler on the chip itself, you would have to use a different heatsink. A lot of them had 2 fans side by side, and if you've ever owned one of these, you're probably familiar with the worn-out fan sounds that they were notorious for, because those twin fans would sometimes go out of sync. One of them would slow down faster than the other, and they would make these harmonic noises, and bearings would wear out, because a lot of times people put sleeve bearings in those, and they would just wear out in no time. So let us harping on the CPU, let's take a look at some other stuff. So we've got this rubber mounted cooling fan, which is kind of nice. It helps to isolate the noise of the fan from the chassis, which is pretty cool. I added this fan here because I know this is going to be running in an on-air conditioned environment in a pretty cramped space, so I added this cooling fan. The board does not have any fan headers, at least I don't see any. You can see there's a lot of blank spots where there could be other things. Like this board was this is the same basic board that was used for multiple models, and they would have added components at the factory level as needed. You can see there's a spot for an audio header, a VGA header. I see a game port header right there. That's that one right there. There's another header over here. There's spots where chips could be. So this was like the cheapest version of this board, but ironically, the cheaper boards were better for, if you wanted to build a custom rig, because again, you put whatever parts you want. So what we got here is a CT3670 Sound Blaster 16. We've got a 3Com 905B TX. We've got a, this is what I really want. I wanted to put this in something. I've had this graphics card forever. This is a Rage 128. And these are the graphics cards that a lot of the earlier, a lot of games from around 2000, 2001, they would use, take full advantage of. We've got 640 megabytes of PC-133 RAM. We've got one. This is the only modern part here. This is a Western Digital WD-400. This is a 40 gig IDE hard drive. This drive is from 2005. This was like a new old stock drive that I had at work. It's got low miles on it. It was barely ever used, so I finally found a home for it. We've got a Zip 250. I put that in, and we've got his. I'm sorry, and yeah, I moved the. For whatever reason, Gateway put their floppy drives. Usually, by default, they were up here. I moved it down here, and I put the zip drive there. So we have a lot of drive bays. We've got 3 5¼ inch bays. We've got 3 3.5 inch bays, and we have 2 front-facing 3.5 inch bays and those are both occupied. This is a Pentium 600 board. It's got a 100 megahertz front side bus, and being pre-capacitor gate era, none of these caps are leaking or bulging or showing any signs of failure. Whether or not they have high ESR or not is not something I'm willing to check right now. It's not really a big deal. It runs pretty well. I've got a brand new clock battery in there already. This baby's ready to fly. I've already installed the bulk of my software library onto this machine, and it ate it all up and wanted more. So that's that. I love this system. This thing is... Now, you might be wondering, why don't you just use your really stupid expensive laptop and just run emulators? Well, I don't find that to be entertaining or fun, or nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to... If I put up a video where I just said, okay, here's my emulator, and this is Windows 98, and this is this, and it's like, nobody's going to want to watch that. They want to see this. They want to see this old hardware wake up again and go back to work. That's what people want to see, I think. No other reason than that. So yeah. So back to the original configuration on this system. I don't know what size hard drive it had, but it only had about 128 megabytes of RAM. It might have had 64 at one point. And it had a 16 megabyte NVIDIA-based graphics card. It had 3 network interfaces, no sound card, no modem, a CD-ROM drive, just a base CD-ROM drive. It had, that's about it. It was pretty bare bones, just used for a very specific purpose. Nothing more than that. But it definitely was well cared for. I don't see a lot of abuse. It's pretty clean. I dusted it out, but that's about all I did to it. So there it is. It fits right in this little cavity here, designed for tower systems. To complete the ensemble, we have an original Gateway PS2 keyboard, a Gateway mouse, and this mouse I've been hanging on to for a while. This is a Microsoft wireless wheel mouse. This is one of the first ones. It's a mechanical wireless mouse, and the receiver is over there. I've also got a set of Altec Lansing speakers with subwoofer. These are very, very nice sounding speakers. I've had these for quite a while, and they kind of are from the same time period, around 2000, 2001. Now, as a special treat, I've gone over to the Gateway website. Now, this is a snapshot of March of 2000, and it shows the GP7-600 as featuring a Pentium 600 processor, 64 megs of RAM, a 17-inch display, an 8 megabyte AGP graphics card, which we had a 10 gig hard drive and a 17x CD-ROM drive. Sold for $1,299, so $1,300. Now, it's possible that this machine could have been customized. See if we can move forward in the timeline here. It could have been customized to feature the 16 meg graphics, but it also could have been from a different time period. So, now, one of the things I want to point out is we don't have the right keyboard. This keyboard is actually from a later model, and so I'm going to keep my eyes out for the correct one, but I'm not really that worried about it. So, March 5th of 2000. Let's see if we can roll forward. Gateway's site was pretty, let's see. This one, at some point they went to an integrated graphics card for this model, so interesting. Very interesting. I love this Internet Archive thing. This is the coolest because you can really see what these old machines cost up, well, as far back as a certain point. But I'm going to go back to gateway.com. Alright, we hit pay dirt. On November 11th of 1999, this machine was offered with a Pentium 600, 128 megs of RAM, and a 16 meg AGP graphics card. Also a 10 gigabyte hard drive, and it sold for $1,650. So, I think we may have narrowed it down a little bit. So let's fire it up. I'm going to do a memory test on this machine because I'm a bit concerned that it might have some faulty RAM. Now, I upgraded it to 640 megabytes of RAM. It's possible some of that could have been bad, but that's alright because I've got spare modules kicking around. We're going to use a program called Microscope, which I got when I worked for a computer shop in 2001. It's kind of like an early version of what we now know as the Ultimate Boot CD and all those other miscellaneous tools that are included. It's a professional grade piece of software, and I believe the company is still making it. So we're going to launch that, we're going to do a memory test, make sure everything's okay, and then we're going to proceed. There we go. We're in. Alright. So, okay. Let's go to boot. First boot device. Plus key, minus key. Removable. Oh, stop it. Stop that. Oh. Wait a minute. Floppy disk is enabled, write protect. Disabled. Yeah, I think that's what we want. Removable devices. Ah, here we go. So it lets me boot from the zip drive as well. So we want the floppy drive, then the zip drive. That's pretty cool. Alright, that's one of the benefits, by the way, of moving to a newer system for my Windows 98 PC. Because the BIOS supports a lot more options. And it supports natively things like the Zip 250 and CD booting as well. So that's a slight benefit. So let's see what she does this time. It did a floppy seek, which it didn't do before. There it goes. Alright, we're getting there. Okay, we're going to do press 1 for Microscope. And I'm going to run a thorough RAM test on this, which it will do pretty easily. Now there are other utilities you can buy today, or get for free by the way, that For example, the Ultimate Live CD is one of them, that has tools that are similar to what this program offers. But I've had really good luck with this software in detecting weird issues that don't always obviously pop up. So let's do diagnostics, system board test. We'll do that first. And that'll test, the basic components for functionality. And of course, I've never had this fail a test before. I've never had one fail. We're going to do the memory test. We're going to do extended memory. We're going to do all tests. And there we go. And we're going to let it fly. This is going to take probably a few hours to run. And I'll have a better idea of the system's condition afterwards. Alright, how did we do? And it looks like 64 tests out of 64, 64 out of 64 passes have come back in a good way. Alright, so we've got good RAM. Let's check the expanded memory. Oh, wait. I guess not, huh? Let's check our cache tests. I'll do 128 tests. There we go. Good. And base memory tests. Looks pretty good so far. Okay. Fixed disk tests. Now these can be destructive or non-destructive. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable running these because I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to leave that alone. This utility also has a built-in floppy head cleaner function. Now, I believe the original master disk had a section that was actually used for cleaning the disk, and what it would do is it would force the heads over to that part of the disk where it would actually clean the heads. But let's reboot it up and see what we get. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of blue screens on this sucker, so I'm a little nervous. But I was more worried about having a memory problem than anything. It appears to be not a problem. So who wants to see how this Windows 98 PC performs? Well, once again, we've got a Pentium 3 600, 640 megabytes of RAM, 100 megahertz frontside bus, an ATI Rage 128 AGP graphics card. Can she game? Let's find out. Alright. I'm going to play 2 games on this, and we're going to see how it performs. The first one, I already have the disk in the drive, so we'll use it as our starting point, is Maxis The Sims. Okay, here we go. This particular game has a notoriously long startup period. It takes forever to start this game in almost any platform. I've run this game on many different Windows machines over the years, on multiple operating systems ranging from Windows 98 all the way up to Windows XP. I've run it on Pentium 3s, Pentium 4s, Celerons. I think I ran it on a dual-core once. And in all I've even ran this on Macs. And it's always had very poor performance on just about everything. So. the sound out on a lot of these because the soundtracks are copyrighted and will be picked up by the copyright police. So now I've already gone ahead and I've designed this mansion, and we're going to do a quick walkthrough. I'm only in the beginning stages of this building's design. So we're going to take a quick look at it. Now here's the exterior of the building. We're going to pan around and see how much video lag we get. There's a little bit of lag there. Now let's reveal the roof. Or take the roof off, I should say. We're going to take a quick look inside here. I'm going to do a wall cutaway view and kind of scroll through it. It's weak sauce performance, but it's not bad. Actually, it's pretty impressive. The first machine I ever played this game on was in fact the Pentium 600, and it had about half as much RAM as this one. Actually, it only had about 128, so quite a bit less. 1/6 the amount of RAM I have here. So that's not too bad performance-wise, and if I go to build something and add to this construction here, let's add a few doors. I'm going to use these fancy doors. I'm going to put a door here, put a door here. It seems to do pretty well. It's not lagging so much as I'd expect it to. I did build this nice big pool house, so we're going to put the pool in. Tool switching seems to be pretty quick, not a lot of lag there. Yeah, we're going to put a door in this bathhouse area. There's an attached shower room off the pool area. Yeah, it's working pretty good. Let's go back to the neighborhood, and we're going to start another game that I used to play quite often when I was younger. It's called Driver. Some of you may know this game. This game I don't think this was as popular as the Grand Theft Auto series, but it was one of my favorites because it's a great game to play. You just hop into the car and drive, and you can perfect your driving skills without really getting too far into the game portion of it. But there are a lot of missions you can go on. You've got to, it's a little bit like Grand Theft Auto. But I only really used it as a driving simulator. Kind of like how I used The Sims as an architecture design simulator. So, alright, let's run the game. I'm going to have to turn the sound off with this one because I actually had to pull this video down early on. I had already uploaded this entire video, and I was forced to yank it because there were too many copyrighted audio, too much copyrighted audio included, and I had to take it out. So let's start this game and see how it goes. Now, this one opens up to a full video to get you into the let's see what we have for audio here. This is, of course, animated. This is not real video content. This is an animation. But we're going to skip that, and I'm going to turn the audio down because I know there's some music that plays. Let's do this. Let me go into the options here. Sound. We're going to turn the music down. That's what caused all these issues. There we go. There we go. Now I have this running on high detail. I'm just going to increase the viewing distance a little bit. Kind of see how this machine can handle the game with basically full options. So gameplay, that's fine. Okay. My dad actually really loves this game. He hasn't played it in almost a decade, but he used to love this game. He'd go into my bedroom and play this while I wasn't around, and he really loved it. So you can change the view. Okay, here we go. Let's have fun. I tried controlling it with a joystick, but it was not so good. The joystick I have just doesn't do this game any justice. But you can see that, you know, the frame rate is pretty decent. There's not a lot of video lag. Let's increase the let's increase the graphics, the viewing distance. You can do that right from within the game. So let's bring it to its max, and we'll see how bad it is. Here we go. Not so bad. Not so bad. The San Francisco layout of this game is much better because there's a lot of hills and jumps. The Miami one's kind of flat. The idea is to dodge the police, not get caught. And of course, oh shit. It's a very fun game. Oh, there's a jump here. Yeah, I can see it lagging a little bit, but it's doing it quite smoothly. And I'm dead. Alright, so that's that. And I think I have a lot more to do to this machine before I'm done with it. I might add a DVD player to it. Just gotta go find one. So thank you for watching, and yeah, there you go. The Gateway GP7-600.